If I was to ask you who is your primary group of users, what would you say? In many cases, it's looking at a specific vertical. Now, if we were to dive into that specific vertical, whether that's manufacturing or reseller or whatever, or reseller of specific home goods or whatever, if we were to dive into that and say from a functional perspective, what are the three types of users that will be using your website? A functional perspective, what would your answer be? Again, we're not talking about vertical here. What would be the primary user, the secondary, the tertiary user? Hopefully, you have a good answer for me in that. We posted this as a question yesterday. Hopefully, you have an answer on that. But if you don't, this couple-minute video is designed to give you a very quick idea as far as who you should be targeting from a functional perspective. My name is Joseph from SwiftOtter. We are an e-commerce agency, and education is part of our lifeblood. We love it. And this is a new segment, episode number 1 here, first one, talking about how you can quickly optimize your website, understand your customers better, and thus sell more products. In our conversation today, we're going to be talking about what are the three types of users to utilize your website. Perhaps you had an answer to this yesterday. I'm excited to see those answers. But I want to talk about the first group, and we're going to talk about 3 here. The first group that you will probably think of, and that would be the end user. Now, from a functional perspective, the end user could be almost anyone, right? We have plenty of options here. This could be a distributor. This could be perhaps a homeowner buying your springs to be able to input in a box that they're building for their grandchild. This could be a manufacturer who is incorporating this product into their assembly lines and their processes going forward. There's a few things that they need in this type of a circumstance. Number 1, they need pricing, inventory, and the time to delivery. This is absolutely critical for them. Now, you could be in a case where you don't provide pricing and you could swap that out for request a quote. That's fine, where you might be passing them off to a dealer or talking them through to make sure they're looking at the right product. Generally, though, I would argue that customers want a price as quickly as possible, and there's cases going both ways, but pricing is generally very important to have on the website. Now, the one other thing to note, though, about these people is they are usually not technical. That can vary, but to one extent or another. But the other slides I'm going to have coming up here shortly will address this as well. They are probably focused on installation instructions, especially for the less technical users. They are going to be wanting user installation installation instructions, maybe material data safety sheets, etc. There's some very specific types of materials that need to be called out in great detail on these pages. And ideally, we have the option for a call to action, either add to cart, request a quote, being able to carry this process further. So end users, this is probably who you're thinking of first when you think about the functionality perspective using your website. But I want to talk about one that I think is generally underlooked next, and that is the architects and engineers. These are the people who are actually speccing your product. They may or may not be making a recommendation here. They may like your brand. And in fact, this becomes a potential piece of your value proposition. If you make this information very clear, very easy to access, again, from a functional perspective, they might say, your company is actually easier to work with, or it's easier to find the information I'm needing, and thus I will recommend it. It depends on the circumstance. You might, or your customers might be saying, hey, I want to use XYZ company's equipment. Fair enough. But these architects and engineers do often have a lot of sway in the conversation. So being able to provide them what they want is absolutely critical. They're not worried about making purchases. They are there for data, for information, and to get their job done quickly so they can get out quickly and continue speccing out this project. That's number 2. So number 1 is the end user. Easy. Number 2 is the architects and engineers. Now, the third one, it might also be somewhat less obvious, but it's kind of a blending of these two different areas. So that would be your dealers and or your customer service representatives. These are people are going to potentially be somewhat technical, but they are also in a hurry. They have some very specific things that they need. They are going to need time to delivery, inventory status. They're also going to want their applicable pricing. So that means they need to be in the system somehow as a customer, probably in their own customer group, leverage that capability of your platform. But then they will often want the ability to purchase and then have it potentially a blind shipping to a different address. A very different requirements in some ways, but also there's some similarities here. At the end of the day, there are some critical things that these individual groups of people need from a functional perspective. And if the user experience on your product page, especially here, is lacking, it's going to be frustrating any one of these three groups. And all three of these are absolutely critical to your success as a merchant. So I hope you found that helpful in understanding who your groups of users are. Again, from a functional perspective, not verticals, from a functional perspective. Hope you found that helpful.